Today I'm going to do a water test using these commercially available test kits. And I've got a couple of different test kits here. These are usually sold in retail stores, and I'm going to do a test for my distilled water and my Berkey water filter. I just did a review on my water distiller, and I used this TDS meter to test my distilled water to find out how clean it was. And it turned out to be very clean. And according to this TDS meter, I got 1 part per million, so that's almost like 0. So the water is almost 100% pure according to this. But I want to go one step further to find out if that's the truth. So I got these test kits, and they test for a variety of different contaminants in the water. I have 2 test kits with different brands. They look different, and they are made by different manufacturers, but the tests are exactly the same. And because I've got 2 test kits here, I think I'll test the Berkey filter water also. The Berkey filter water is the water I've been using before I have the water distiller. Right, so here is the inside of the packages. On the right side, we've got the First Alert. On the left side, it's made by Purtest. Even though they are different brands, the test materials are very similar, especially the lead and pesticide test strips here. The lead and pesticide strips are identical in both test kits. So this is the inside of the packages on the Purtest kit. For each test, I have 2 test strips. So to make it consistent, I'll just use this one test kit for both samples. But each test kit only has 1 of the lead and 1 pesticide strip. So I have to use 1 of each test kit. They are identical strips, and the way they are used is also identical. Right, so I've got everything set up and ready to go here. On the left side, we still got the Berkey filter water. On the right side is the distilled water. Let me zoom in here. So first we got the lead and pesticide test first, and then the 3-way, and then the 4-way, and then the iron. Now I'm gonna do the lead and pesticide test first. So the way you do this is you take the provided vial and the dropper. Okay. So the instruction on each of the test kit is almost the same except the amount of water. So on this side here, on the Purtest brand, you only need 1 dropper full. So you just suck up 1 of these into the vial of water. For the First Alert, they said you need 2. So 2 squeeze of this of water into this vial. So here we go. And actually, I'm gonna mix it up thoroughly before I take the sample. Okay, and I got the other spoon for the other test. Mix it up thoroughly. Now 1 dropper full on this end, on this side, on the Berkey filter. So squeeze and suck it up. So how much I can get, but it doesn't look like much. Let me try again. Okay, so it sucks water up to the first bubble. There are 2 bubbles, so I guess up to the first bubble. Let me try again. Yep, so only up to the first bubble. Okay, now I squeeze it in here. That's it. That's all of the amount of water that you need for this test. It's not much at all. Just a little bit. I would say about half a cc or even less. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, except that you need 2 dropper full. So that's what it says here, 2 dropper full of water. I don't know why it will look exactly the same, but here we go. Okay, a little bit more than the other side. Now take a look at the test strips itself for the lead and pesticide. You got the side with the arrow, and then I guess when you put this down, only this part is submerged in the water, the arrow part, and then it's gonna suck the water up all the way up here. It looks like you got some cotton material in here to suck it up. Alright, so this arrow part down so that it can suck the water. So here we go. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Put both of test strip with arrow side down in the water. Now we have to wait for 10 minutes to get the result. It's about 8:05 right now. We're gonna get the result around say 8:15 or so. So while we're waiting, let's see how this works. These are the test strip. You got the arrow on the left side here. So the result will appear here. The result will show up as blue lines. Okay. The negative result will give you the bottom blue line dark and the top line either not present or very dim. This is the positive result down here, which is the top line is darker than the bottom. Now it's a little bit over 10 minutes now, so time to get the results. First, let's get the Berkey test strip out. See what we got here. Right, let me put it down here. So here we got the test strip for the Berkey filter. The top is a pesticide and the bottom is the lead strip. So for negative results, the line, the blue line on 1 has to be darker than the line on 2. Okay, so for the lead is negative, so there's no lead here in the Berkey filter water. On the pesticide strip, the blue line on 2 is as dark as the blue line on 1. I would say just a little bit less dark on 2, but it looks the same to me, almost the same. So I would say it is positive. So we see here the chart say positive. It has to be darker. The line 2 is darker or equally dark. Okay, which is this. So the pesticide is positive. So there are still pesticides in the Berkey filter water. There are no lead in this water. Right, so now let's take the strip from the distilled water. So let's take a closer look here. Distilled water test strip. Move it down a little bit. Okay. You can see the blue line on 1 is dark. Okay. But the line on 2 is very dim, especially the lead test strip is almost invisible. So the distilled water completely removed, has almost no trace of lead. The pesticide strip has a very thin and still very dim line on the top here that indicates that it's a negative, also a negative result. Negative result is either the line 1 is darker, or there's no line on 2. The line on 2 is very dim on the pesticide, so that also means it's negative. So that means the distilled water remove lead and pesticide, everything. Right, so my next test is the three-way test, which is alkaline, pH, and hardness. And for this, I'm just going to use my bowl here. Let's look at the chart here. For this test, you want the alkaline and hardness to be 0 part per million. Okay. And for the pH, you want it to be at 7, as neutral as possible. Alright, here we go. You just have to dip it in water. That's it. Okay. Immediately you can tell the difference between the two. Let me zoom in here so you can see the difference. On the left side we got the Berkey, and on the right side we got the distilled water. Now let's take a look at the result here. Let's do the distilled water first. The color on the strip looks like it remains the same color as the original strip. So look like yellow, so alkalinity is 0. That looks more like the one in the middle is a pH, and that looks more like 5, isn't it? The last one is the hardness. The hardness level, it looks like it's very pale blue, so it looks like 0 part per million. So there's no more hardness, there's no more alkalinity. 0 hardness, 0 alkalinity, but slightly acidic on the distilled water. Right, so next we're going to take a look at the Berkey strip here. You take a look at the color on this side, is completely changed and looks different than the distilled water. So it's there's a lot of changes on the Berkey water here. Let's take a look at the charts. The first one is the alkalinity, which is looks more like blue, turquoise blue. So let's see. It looks like that blue will look more like this one here, which is 180 parts per million. 180 parts per million alkalinity. The middle one is the pH. And the last one is the hardness. The hardness level is pretty pronounced. It looks like purple, which very different on the distilled. Distilled still remains green, which is 0 part per million on the distilled water, but on the Berkey water it's changed to purple. Actually, it's not a deep purple, so it's 250 parts per million. It's still pretty hard. The water is still pretty hard. My next test is the four-way test, which is the nitrate, nitrite, copper, and chlorine. Nitrate can be found in fertilizer or in the sewer. Nitrite is used as preservative in meat to inhibit growth of bacteria. While two of these are good for plants, they are not good for animal and human, especially for infants and pregnant women. And in your body, nitrate can be oxidized into nitrite, and then this will further oxidize your hemoglobin and will reduce your blood ability to carry oxygen. So infants can develop a life-threatening disorder. It's known as the blue baby syndrome. Here we go. I'm ready for the 4-way test. And the instruction here says that immediately after you drop the strip in, you're gonna have to read the chlorine test right away. And then you have to wait 45 seconds for the other 3 tests. Looks like the chlorine is the same for both, and it looks yellow, so there's no chlorine left on both samples. Let me zoom in so we can see here. The second one is the copper, which is, looks like there's nothing left on the copper, so 0 part per million on the copper, so there's no copper here. The nitrate and nitrite level, pretty similar on both samples. So according to the chart here, the third one is nitrate, the fourth one is nitrite, and it looks like very pale. That's nitrate and that's nitrite. Nitrate, nitrite. It looks pretty pale to me. So it looks like there's little left. Almost no nitrate and no nitrite. My last test in this kit is the iron test. And I have cleaned out the bowl. So every test I have to clean out the bowl and dry it before I put more water sample. Put in the new sample in the bowl for testing. Right. So for the iron test, we got the pills and we got the strip. So first you're gonna have to remove the tablet and then dissolve it in the water first before you put the strip in. It's gonna take a while to dissolve in the water, so I'm gonna use a couple of plastic spoon and help it dissolve better. You don't want to use a steel spoon for this because that may contaminate the level of iron in the water, because you're testing for iron here. This one has a very funny smell when it dissolves. There's a really funny smell to it. Smell like the sewer. Smell really bad. Now the tablet is already dissolved. Time to dip this in. But for this test, for this iron test, you're gonna just dip it in for 1 second and you have to remove the strip. And then you wait for about 10 to 15 seconds before you read the results. So here we go. 1 second. Okay. And I'm gonna hold it for 15 seconds. So this one is distilled water. This one is Berkey filter water. And for this, you want it to be, the result to be white. Okay, as wide as possible. More red means more iron. And it has been about 15-20 seconds. It looks white to me. So there's absolutely no iron in this sample, in either the Berkey or the distilled water. There are no iron. So my conclusion about this test is, for the Berkey water filter, it does remove a lot of contaminants, but it is still very alkaline, still very hard, and still contains pesticide in it. Whereas the distilled water does remove everything in this test. Every single thing in this test is negative in the distilled water. And that's all I have for now. I'll see you next time.